I didn't start the timer actually. Oh my god. There we go. It's on the right anyway. It's the same thing. It works. The point is that it works. This green screen actually. Wow. So kino. Gaming. Today we're not gaming. Today freeform. And let me change the image. Which one? I have like so much stuff. This is a GIF? This works. Wow. We have a GIF that even works. This is the final countdown. Also, did I not reply? I'm stupid. I didn't change anything. I didn't change anything actually. I'm so oh my god. I'm going to anyway. Point being, here we are. Fuck. So I'm serious now. Anyway, it works. The point is that it works, so I'm happy. Let me close this. Let me audio check. Can I get much stuff? I'm incredibly lost actually from all of the things that I see. LinkedIn? Why do I have a LinkedIn as one of the main things? Outlook? I don't use Outlook. Anyway, let me also add this and new window. Let us see if everything is over. What the fuck? I'm so loud actually. This is incredibly uncomfortable actually. Can I make myself not so loud? I think there is like an actual issue with me. Cancel advanced audio properties 0. If I have it at 0, yeah. If I have it at 0, it gets way too loud. A recording this hearing levels. Why does it have plus 10% amplification? What's up with that? Why did it have that actually? It didn't even need it. It didn't even need it to be so intense. It works fine now. Who would have expected that? Okay. We have audio. We have yet again audio. We have audio. We have yet again audio. It works, and also, yeah, I kinda, I kinda forgot to mute the desktop. It doesn't matter anyway. Point being, there we go. That's that, I guess. Something else? No, I don't think so. So, here we are. Why is this thing leaking randomly? What's up? Anyway, completely anyway. Let me close this, and close this, and close literally everything. So, I'm like incredibly close to actually just closing stream, shutting down stream and opening it again, just because it triggers me to see that the wrong thing is showing. It's literally just because of that. Literally just because of that. Also, important question. How do you get Twitch chat on OBS? How do it Twitch chat? in OBS. The switch from Twitch Studio to OBS. If you have a Twitch account, you can connect it to from the settings. Okay, let me do that real quick. Accessibility, appearance, stream, output, audio, video, advanced, general. How do I connect? Why is everything so hard? It's an option that I actually have to and stream for. You know what? I might as well skip it. Anyway, it works. It works. Today we don't actually need chat. Not. It's a different idea. It's more along the lines of we can have chat, but maybe differently or something like that. So, whatever. Cancel this. Then also, yeah. This works far better than the other thing, which doesn't have like an insane amount of boosting. Why did it have so much boosting, anyways? Why was that a pre-configured thing of sorts? What was going on with that? Anyway, point being, it works. So, today, also, what's up with the subtitles? Are they working? They're working, no? Let me rapidly test this thing. Yeah, no, anyways, as always, as every single time, I change scene and things get resized for some reason. I don't understand that yet. But yeah, we have like a minute. I can probably rapidly resize to yes studio mode. Resizing. The trick is to set no bounds. What? What? So open the program, the window is a little too big for the screen, so it's to maximize power time. Yeah. Well, I figured out the answer to my own problem after messing around a bit more and trying to fix the result. Dude, what? No idea. If TCs help check file integrity, launched OBS. Windows Winky? What? What? It's so complicated, actually. You know what? We're fine. I'm not going to do any of that right now. So, moving on. Moving on, yeah, I guess. Yeah, no, actually. Also, I need to kind of figure out a way to do this. Wait. I have an idea. Properties. Why does text have anti-aliasing? What? Alignment to the right? Okay, and now let me test. Give me a second. I start this and I need to be around here. And with that there, wait. Countdown duration, 1 second, start. And once it's, didn't matter. Didn't matter at all. Didn't matter in the least, actually. Is the problem on the... No, what? How do you actually make it work? What a good question. Maybe you don't. Wait, I have an idea. We will move these two things to here, and this other thing goes here. Wow! Now we have it working the way in which I intended it to be actually working. So, anyway, good evening, fellow. What fellowship? What's? I don't actually remember how you say it. The Brotherhood of Steel. No, something. But anyway, welcome. We are yet again here Today, what day is today? Today is Wednesday. Yeah, today is Wednesday. Wednesday, 19th of November 2025, in a not so hot summer night in Argentina, we find ourselves yet again congregating here to ponder out the question of existence and all of its weights in relation to how we also wait a second. I just saw the text isn't fully centered, probably. Is it actually not fully centered? A little bit like that. Let me see. Anyway, going to be good evening. Today, we don't actually have much to add. Today we are here just to ponder about life. I guess I don't know, many things have been happening. As existence has been continuing to move forward and such, so it's not all that bad, I would say. We are quite honestly, it has been a wonderful, yeah, a wonderful passage of time so far. So no actual thing to complain about. It's more along the lines of it's surprising to see that we are still here, not in a negative manner, but certainly in a surprising way. The whole proposition, I don't know how surprising it is or not, but for me, the whole proposition of actually moving on and being able of remain in stuff like this ends up being quite astounding to some degree. You don't actually expect to be in anything for so long, and so that tries to interfere. It's quite a positive thing to still be in this area and to still have all that we to share, so to speak. So, good evening. I don't know. I'm happy. I guess that's what I wanted to start with. Many things have been moving forward, so that is also nice. Life unavoidably gets busy. It's sort of expected. I would even say. I am at all not surprised even that it happens. So it's I will, yeah, I believe it's necessary for us to actually go through these times of high intensity and such more often than not. So unavoidably, it's crazy to see that we're still standing despite all the oddities and whatnot. But despite that, yeah, what has been happening? I don't know. A lot has been going on. I have to say, in very recent times, life. Yeah, being honest, we are back, or I find myself back in those moments in which everything seems to be moving not faster, but rather everything seems to be happening all at the same time. So you actually end up surprised at the amount of events that go on all in the same time frame. It's something along the lines of we have way too little focus available to us, so when things, not that they get overwhelming, but when things get busy, the act of observing everything happening in relationship to all the other things that are also going on, like, I don't know, let me, inventing things, but let's say, if you have a sister and you have to see how your sister is just birthing a child, for example, or yeah, giving birth to a new nephew of yours, if you have also to attend the graduation of some friends, and you have to keep on working in in your particular office job, and all of those things, the more and more things you keep on adding one on top of each other at the same time, make it so that once a certain threshold gets reached, I cannot even say where, but once we reach a certain point, it's just astounding to see how much happens all at the same time. And yeah, in that sense, due to those things, what happens is it gets quite surprising to see that not much time has actually elapsed, not many hours or anything like that has actually gone on. It's a rather just a little bit of existence, a, a very short amount of time that has actually passed. That's what has truly happened, and that's what feels not weird, but certainly surprising in a sense, despite how much happens. Time itself hasn't elapsed all that fast, so I have to admit it's sort of nice. Unavoidably, this is still quite crazy. I would assume that people, not people, the concept of the more things that happen all at the same time, the more you can also sort of feel yourself getting quite. It isn't exactly overwhelmed, but it's just surprised by the degree of events that go on. The more you see going on, the more you actually have to try and fit in a tight schedule. And yeah, the action of managing existence itself is a possible one, it's a doable one, but it is still the whole proposition of doing so in itself is surprising from hindsight, so to speak. You will not actually have believed that we would have been capable of going through so much. And yeah, I think it's fine. So far, everything is fine, but yeah, unavoidably, at times, one would even go as far as to say it's not exactly overwhelming, but it certainly is weird to see so much happening all around and not having to deal with that, but rather just knowing that yeah, we are here for a second and everything else might not be as important as we make it look like in our own heads. It's like, I don't know, sort of tracing back on the concept of self-centeredness and such, that we end up believing that things get way too complicated despite what we are capable of actually. No, yeah. We end up believing that things get too complicated despite how in reality itself it's just the abundance of simpler things that happen. And that makes it so that in the action of having to truly be, in the action of having to actually be, so to speak, it feels more difficult than what we can admit sometimes. But it's all good, I have to personally say. I don't think it's actually that bad. It's in many ways it's the expected thing that life gets surprising, and that the turns of events are capable of giving us yet more things to actually be amazed with and such. So that means then, I don't know, many, as I have said, it's sort of a preface for many things have been happening. I guess, reasonably so. Anyway, I could get to be happy just because of that. It's nice to see things moving forward and such. So that's certainly a positive thing to add. Besides that, I don't know. Many, once again, it's a sensation of so many things are actually happening. So much life circulates that to just pick any one thing will be a difficult task to actually commit. There are so many facets of life that we get to experience once we allow ourselves. I guess the proper expression will be to experience as much of life as we can. That to have to admit later on that so much happened gets then, yeah, once again, complicated. But that doesn't mean in itself that it is anything bad or such. It's just the nature of how things are, and it's fine actually. I think it's quite an enjoyable thing to see everything moving forward and everything going somewhere. So that already is a beneficial thing. A potentially nice thing, so to speak. The way in which we interpret all the other events is what makes it look like in this case beneficial, but yeah, I am happy. That's the point. With more certainty, then we can conclude that just as from a personal perspective, yeah, I can say I am happy. I guess anyone would actually get to enjoy existence in such a manner, and that is nice, quite nice actually. So, from there on, what else do we have? I don't know, so many things actually. It has been quite a crazy journey. I guess the proper thing to say would be where I already found myself once again in that state of the year in which you are more than anything else trying to look back, reflect on what has happened, what went on, and what we can actually learn from all of that. And I don't know, it's as always so much to actually consider and so much to actually digest throughout this next month or so that it's still not fully refined as anything. But thus far, I believe it is a correct statement to say, yeah, I think this year has been quite a wonderful one. I can actually admit I have enjoyed a lot more being here and such. I don't know. I remember having started and similar with my whole project of trying to get something written and trying even more to make it get published. That I believe it started around soon or so, the middle year or so, at some point around the second quarter of the year, let's say, that happened. But I don't know, it's also is as always getting to observe and everything else and put into context that in many cases it's not so much about what didn't happen, but all the other reasons as to why stuff just never got to be. And I don't know, I have to say, it feels good to actually be capable of observing and living at ease, not feeling so much like, oh no, there are so many other things that actually didn't get to be. I am going to have a tantrum now. This is the moment in which I actually completely lose my mind because we didn't get to enjoy the experiences of, I don't know, this or that thing which we say that we wanted, which we were looking forward to, and similar. Despite whatever it is that it didn't happen, just to have the capacity to actually sit around and look forward. It's not just look forward, also make sense out of what happened. All of that combined makes it far more enjoyable than what otherwise can get easily admitted, I guess. And that is also wonderful. I think, yeah, I have to say, I am quite hyped unavoidably for next year. I just finally found a way to not be so uncertain or so negative about things, so that it doesn't actually feel so terrible or so bad. It's finally, I wouldn't say going somewhere. Everything has been actually moving towards certain directions. If I am quite personally speaking incapable of properly expressing where we are moving with things. That's literally on me, but everything is moving far more rapidly, or is even to greater heights. It's where we are aiming now, and all of that makes it so that actually we can truly say it's a nice thing to have remained, I guess. The whole eternal proposition of what a nice thing to actually be alive. It's yet another time, and yet another instance of us having the possibility of celebrating existence and life and such. All of it is, in this case, also true. But I don't know. Sometimes it feels more like it's not that there aren't things to celebrate. It's more about how we just make it look like it's better to complain about what we don't have or what we don't get to experience than to rejoice in what we do get to go through and such. So, with that being said, sort of trying to trace back a little bit, then yeah, I guess it's also very nice to see that here we are. Things right now, I guess it's a very chill time, despite everything else. Here we get to enjoy these times of tranquility and such. I don't know. I will say I'm to some degree. I am still. I wouldn't say terrified, but it is the uncertainty of how everything else might get to be in the future, and how things will look a year from now, so to speak, is a surprising proposition, or an overwhelmingly full of possibilities concepts to actually try to wrap personally my head around. Right now, I can say I think things are going to go well. I don't actually know, but yeah, we will see at that point how everything turned out. One of the many things, I don't know, we have still stuff to keep on working on right now, even so. I shouldn't be so much projecting onto so far in the future, but I don't know, man. It's also let me say it like this. One of the many events that you actually learn to experience, one of the many, one of the many aspects of life that we actually get to think about, so to speak, is the whole prospect of, man, sometimes not saying it in an insulting manner or anything like that, but is it actually all that negative to try and think about things as in I don't know. I always hear, or not always, lately, this whole very recent repetition, which leads to conclusions that otherwise wouldn't have been as certain. Let's say it like that. Okay. One of the many things that I have been hearing lately has been, therefore, this whole concept of, you know what? It's bad to think about the future. I don't know, bro. I quite enjoy actually doing that. As always, I think I bring that particular concept up way more than your average person to some degree, but yeah, I think it's necessary to be capable of thinking out what's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't know, I do feel to some degree better when we get to be once again in places like this one, and focusing not just on wow what happened a week ago, what happened yesterday, what happened a year ago, but also what's happening not just right now, what's happening in this current time lapse, what's going to happen a year from now. All of those other things also that possess their importance and that have a lot of things that you can actually try to think about to some degree. And I don't know, people don't seem to actually care, personally speaking. I'm not saying it with 100% certainty, but yeah, it's something that you could try to have in mind. It's something that you could try to have in present, and it otherwise feels like it's truly, conceptually speaking, the proper thing to never at all bring up things like, yeah, here we get to be, here we are, and not only things happen, not only things went somewhere, but also this is what's going on right now, and this is what might happen in the future, and that gets put once again. I feel like condemned way too much. I don't personally enjoy it that much. I don't personally have such a nice time when we have to make it look like it's actually natural or acceptable to never think out all the other things that reside in the future. I feel like the whole condemnation of how things are and how things will be is quite unnatural. It's, I don't know, I haven't fully organized myself with all of that. I haven't tried, I have, let me say like this, I have been revisiting the whole information, and that led me to therefore try to make sense in an even better way than before. So it is still not a fully developed thought, or not a fully grown thought, so to speak. So what I am trying to say is, what I'm trying to say is, and I don't know, man. I think it's nice. I think things are looking great, and the life is certainly in a great, in a nice spot. We are much better than almost ever before, I would say so. That makes it certainly nice. I don't know. This whole, I think, let me say it like this, one of the many events that come with being, at least in the way in which I find myself being most of the time, let's say, is the whole concept of not everything feels as much of anything particularly as before. So once you surround yourself with people who tend to be biased towards certain reactions, even if they are positive, you forget that you actually can also remember how you actually think about this stuff. So it's the act of personal reflection that makes me, in this case, go to the concept of, I don't know, I think so far we are doing well. I think I presume, I assume that right now we are very good. I don't think that it is necessary to hear everyone else who always says otherwise that, oh no, no, things are so well. I think, sadly, I don't know, it might be a negative idea, unavoidably, but I do feel like that to some degree. It's not like, oh no, yeah, this is a bad idea, but this is not my own thought, so we don't have to worry about that. No, I can accept that even if it is a bad idea, it comes actually from my own experience. I find myself incredibly surrounded by negative people most of the time. Life is full of things that we could try and appreciate in some way, and it's surprising to see that actually, yeah, we are good. We're incredibly good. And that is amazing. Not just on a basic level of, oh no, we are not dying of a terminal disease. That's good. No, 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 no. An actual sense of wellness, a healthy level of life, things that are actually nice, good, healthy, and such. And how we get accustomed to everything that we have, and we never actually appreciate what goes on. I guess it's yet again another astounding stage of life in which you look at what you have around you, and I cannot lie, I think it is to some degree many and stages in which I can identify many of the things that I would have otherwise thought of only as dreams present right now. I don't think it is all that crazy, and I don't think it is all that irrational or delusional to actually admit to that. I personally, once again, I believe it to be the case. I don't know. It's the normal thing is to sulk on everything that goes on, and the normal thing is to make it look like we are actually in the worst of the places or similar. But I don't know. I'm not I'm not seeing anything bad. I am not experiencing anything negative. I'm not. I guess even if it sounds bad from the outside, yeah. Personally, even in a much better place than before mentally, so that's already a positive, and to be capable of admitting that sometimes feels still like the worst thing that you could do, the necessity to always be only on that side of life in which, oh, no, 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 there are these many problems, there are these many things that are failing, and there are these other many issues that are going on. I don't know, or I don't need to actually, let's say like this, it is still negative to only focus on the positive, the act of denying even everything that is bad is far more harmful than to at least be capable of acknowledging its existence, yeah, but at the same time, I don't think it is all that crazy to say, and you know what? One of the many other things that are going on here is also the reality that, man, things are nice, and not just nice. Things are going somewhere, and we can have hopes for a future that we can actually try to look forward to, and that is not a bad thing actually. That is not in itself such a negative thing. It's rather a truly useful thing to have at hand, and the action of doing so doesn't need to feel so charged with only a negative aspect to itself, you know? And out of that, I feel is missing way more than, I don't know. Once again, it's only my analysis on what others say, but I do feel like it is missing far more in others around me than what they could ever admit, I guess. But sometimes or to some degree, even if people will be happier by the mere action of actually reflecting on what they have, it's not so much about such or so. The whole concept of understanding that we can do only what we are actually doing to some degree. It's not so easy to wake up tomorrow and have a change of mind in all directions and do better. It is still hard to fully follow, and in itself, it's understandable. The degree of attachments that we get to have to things and such, so that we can't so rapidly just become better at that which we find ourselves looking at or so, is understandably an issue of life and an issue of or about things that everybody has to deal with, so to speak. And I don't know, I'm happy. I think it's what matters to some degree is certainly being able of at least admitting that. And as always, I guess the whole other proposition that I try to always bring after that, and once that gets done, then comes just the actual aspect of all the other things. Maybe, okay, if we say that we care so much about everyone else, if we say that it is so necessary for other people to not be so negative, if we try to make it look like it is not so much a good positive action to be so negative or so centered only on the bad stuff, are we actually doing something to make sure that that is what is actually going on in the life of others? Are we contributing in any way to those who we look with critical eyes? Are we making sure that things get better? Or are we just enacting our judgment in a completely detrimental way? And yeah, I don't think everything points at being the best version of oneself that could be assisting everyone with that, even if in some cases you could just define it as, oh no, what you are being way too harsh. I don't know, brother. Sometimes one of the sad realities is nobody can actually be as harsh with ourselves as we needed to, more than ourselves. In many instances, I guess, to actually develop a sense of harshness that allows us to express a solid yet moderate enough level of seriousness with the way in which we judge our own conduct requires a lot of time, patience, dedication, understanding, and such, so that the whole process of actually building a personal criteria for how we ought to be gets to, in itself, bloom into a mode of existence that we can actually call beneficial to ourselves. All of that is something that doesn't happen out of nowhere, but that is far better than the proposition of, oh no, yeah, you know what, you're being way too harsh on yourself. It's time to go back to Fantasyland and never worry about any other thing that happens around us, around you, around me, around anyone. Because even if things are not looking so great, what we ought to do is to just look at the nothingness, or look at this completely utter meaningless stuff that we don't actually even worry ourselves with, but we desire to look more than those things which deep inside ourselves we can already admit are far more important, but end up requiring far more time to actually process in any way or do. I remember having heard the other day the expression of integration for the same message as what I am always saying of the human who has to process their whole life while going through it, and before it even gets to happen sometimes, the whole integration of the world onto oneself for the sake of, not just, in some cases, I have to admit, one of the many things that you read when you try to see what authors have thought about the habit of thinking and what authors have tried to conclude when it comes to how we experience the world is that processing in itself, thinking out the nature of things, thinking out of oneself's life even, is not so beneficial sometimes. I don't know, I still am of the mind that actually it's far more feasible to do, and it's far more beneficial than to just lead a completely ignorant, I don't think ignorant has a different feeling to it, unconscious life, one in which we don't get at all to see what has to do with ourselves in the life which we choose to live, actually. But I don't know. We might be getting way too complicated at this point. Let me drink some water and think where we are with all of this. Point being, yeah, I think it's life is good. That's the main thing to say so far. Once again, I guess the main message of today is life is actually great. Life has been quite a wonderful experience. I don't know. I keep on, as always, to keep on going and to keep on having to hear what others express and such makes it so that you get to also think about the things themselves that others say. And way too many times it has been already expressed, no, you know what? This is fucking horrible. This is the worst. I would prefer to be dead than to be here. I don't know, man. I think, actually, the more you give yourself the chance to look at all the things that are not just actually going on, but also possible to happen besides, unavoidably, the negative aspect of life. I don't know. It's not like there is no chance of tomorrow waking up to something like a, being honest, a third world war. If you want something negative, you can think about something like that, but it doesn't mean that it is still the most beneficial action to actually take in itself. The proposition of being capable of utilizing your time, your energy, your mind, your consciousness, your will, your everything, for the sake of processing things in a manner in which you are capable of actually posing yourself in a manner in which you can say that life doesn't feel as negative and that you can actually have a positive spirit towards the next experiences that you might get to go towards, is not so bad, and it's not so negative, and it's, once again, I guess, the eternal unavoidable message in all of this is always, it takes a lot of fucking energy, but everything consumes energy. Even the proposition of doing nothing ends up being incredibly tiresome. The action of doing absolutely nothing for one day, dedicating yourself to doing absolutely nothing, sounds incredibly easy unless you have actually tried to do so, to realize that we are quite incapable of literally doing nothing is quite a surprising discovery for most people. And in that same case, to find out that despite how tired you might end up, to dedicate yourself to try and gain a view of things that leads you to good conclusions is still incredibly exhausting. But in the end, no matter what you do, you're going to end up exhausted. Why is it still that we're so incapable of actually admitting that it is rather far more useful to end up exhausted for something that you actually chose to than to be subjected to a negative experience by default, tied to all the other horrible, willful aspects of life, which also add up to make it all, in the end, look like actually the life which we are living is in itself the worst. I don't know. I think it's not so crazy. I might not be as capable of explaining things so clearly. I have to accept that, sadly, to some degree, the action of thinking out oneself leads to many conclusions that, not completely honestly, but to some degree unavoidably, we ourselves are capable of understanding and not much more, because unavoidably, we are the ones who process all that we are saying, but in essence still, the concept is, man, it's not so actually hard to see, though, to desire or to aim towards a nice end, a positive end. I don't think it is all that unreal at all. Mm, yeah, personally, then I can say I'm happy. I'm actually happy, and that's in itself something that I can believe everyone could be capable of admitting. Issue is how much work that might actually require, but I don't know, brother. Yeah, you can call me, you can call me a victim blamer, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's not so hard to actually make things look good. We are so capable of making things look horrible, despite how much of a nothingness they represent otherwise. Why wouldn't this case be so surreal or so illogical to say? And then, on the other hand, what if we try to also make it look like a good thing? What if we utilize our time or energy in making the other remaining aspects of life good, somewhat good, look somewhat acceptable, so that we are not so punished by the action itself of living, by the action itself of having to be and having to try to do something. I don't know, or sometimes things don't make sense despite how reasonable they sound for others, yes. But that's just life. Anyway, trying to get a little bit back. And I don't know. I think, as I have been saying, it has been quite a great journey, I can admit. I guess, yeah, we have still quite a long future ahead of us, so that's also something to. I wouldn't exactly say it is a fully understandable or an utterly viewable, observable thing, how the future also holds a lot of the things that we could try to think about. But yeah, um, we have a long way ahead of us, and I haven't tried to say that so far for, I don't know, the past hour. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm incredibly happy with knowing that we haven't actually abandoned all of this. I guess, yeah, it is still I tried to explain it before, and I remember the best way in which I felt it was the most easily understandable mode of explaining it is it's amazing to see that actually the human possesses the capacity to truly find something that they like. In many other instances, in many other encounters with the nature of humans, you are confronted by the disgusting reality or by the not so comforting discovery of we always are, not in a completely negative manner, but we are betraying ourselves when we are incapable of choosing something that we truly want. Not because we don't have the capacity to choose something, but rather because in itself we do not even understand what is it that we desire. So we settle down far more rapidly with the first thing that we hear from somebody else that might make some sense. And it is in abandoning the possible discovery of that truly fulfilling aspect of our life that we negate from ourselves the possibility of truly reaching something final or more fulfilling satisfaction from doing something that we also call good. Because in the end, yeah, things are good. Tomorrow, I don't know. It's an obviously basic example, but tomorrow I can wake up and I get myself to just binge watch this new series or this new thing and whatnot. That might bring me some satisfaction. I might be capable of laughing. I might gain some momentaneous happiness. But in the long run, if I abandon everything else that I actually think about otherwise during the rest of my life, if I never consider all of those other aspects that I know are lying out there, if I never, I don't know, the whole proposition of, oh yeah, I have so many ghosts pursuing me, and I chose to never look at them because, oh, what a horrible thing it is to be aware of all the stuff that goes in my life. No, I don't think it is that beneficial to actually be so negative towards how we go through life. The I think yeah, I I have already experienced way too much through the eyes of others, or when trying to understand what someone else might feel. That yeah, it actually is quite a horrible action to abandon so much oneself in that way. And I don't think it is that unreasonable to say. And yeah, therefore, doing actually something good like this, doing something that is actually desired like this is nice. And being part of something that we can truly define as an interest of ours is not just good, not just positive, but truly fruitful in a way in which other things don't actually get to be. And I don't know. I think, yeah, una word, the conclusion is always not, and that just applies just to me. I have to admit, everyone can lead the course of actions that would allow them to find out what is it that they also care about, what is it that they also might have the possibility of ever worrying about, of ever having their minds on, that gives them some degree of satisfaction just like this. And if we are incapable of doing that, it isn't our fault actually. It might be to some degree in our end, but yeah, it's understandable. It's not so easy to sit down and I don't know, look at everything that goes on and admit that yeah, and despite all of that shit, we are still good and we're still happy. It's I wouldn't not trying to say it in a manner in which it just sounds like, oh no, yeah, I'm so good actually, I'm so better than everyone else. It's more along the lines of it makes sense. You hear people who says, but I tried and I gave it my best and I still fucking failed at realizing what I wanted. And you are trying to tell me that I can at some point understand what I would have liked if I kept on fucking trying, killing myself every single day out there for the sake of discovering what I actually wanted. Let me fucking be. Yeah, even then it makes sense. Not not all the circumstances in our life are so easily surmountable in a way in which we can instantaneously get to discover what makes it look like or what allows us to actually see that in India we ourselves are also good and we have things that we actually like. I guess it's just a matter of continuing despite how bad things look, I guess. But yeah, anyway, point being, right now we are older and we are in a path in which things are going to be even greater. And I don't know, I have still, it doesn't mean that there is nothing else to think about. I haven't tried to actually keep thinking about it myself, and I believe we have a lot of stuff to think about in the future too. It's going to be actually quite crazy to try and find out where we are going to be. I remember saying that, I don't know, half an hour ago or so. We have enough a year from now. Things are going to be looking at a lot different. I don't know how different. I don't know exactly from which direction, but yeah, things are going to be looking a lot different, and I am personally happy with that. I don't think I can actually say that it is bad in any way. I am. I can admit now that the prospect of change has not felt or has stopped feeling as the most horrible thing ever. Otherwise, I don't know, yeah, the eternal confrontation with the necessity to change and the acceptance for the unavoidable randomness of life has stopped being uh, an idea that terrifies me, or that, or as others can describe it, brings the human to a halt and makes them suffer because we are animals of customs. I don't think so, brother. I think unavoidably there are things that if I were to lose tomorrow, I would be quite in distraught, but right now, I think we're good. And I think no matter what happens, I can guarantee you are going to be good also. So that's what I am saying. And that's what I'm happy with. And I think that's also, yeah, as always, I guess, the the blank that you're supposed to filter is, and unavoidably that is also what I'm trying to say, sort of indirectly. And I think unavoidably everyone else can also reach that same conclusion, that not everything has to be so so negative no matter what. It's it's quite useless to be so focused only on bad things and so focused only on negative sides of life and such. It doesn't need it to be that way. It isn't an obligation to actually make ourselves suffer so much. At least with that, I guess. So, I don't know. Here we are. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. Also, why does this thing keep? Let me take a look at that, because I actually want to understand it. Why does this thing? I cannot take a silent break without the potato. There we go. I just had to actually update it a little bit. There we go. It was a tiny bit of a change. Now I can change. I can change. I can actually go silent, and it goes silent with me. But yeah. All of that being said, then what else is there? I don't know. There are so many things. I started all of this conversation with that, all of this monologue with that, but it is still true. So many other things are going on, and I don't know. I think this week I want to continue with stuff like reading the Mahabharata. I'm quite happy actually that I didn't lose the file. I didn't lose the book and anything like that. I thought I had a lot more stuff to move. Luckily enough, it wasn't the case. Once you get rid of stuff like video games, we don't actually have that much. Nowadays, at least people like me have I don't know if it is all that much of a sad realization. It's just the reality of, besides video games, there are not that many things that you store in a PC if you don't have a profession that forces you to save stuff. Oh no, yeah, but I have my folders with so many pictures and so many screenshots and so many. Okay, understandable. And how much does that weight? What do you save your pictures in 4K, HD, Ultra? Do you clip every single moment of you with your friends to 60 FPS? No, bro. Nobody does that. No matter how much we like to say that we have things, I don't know. What actually mattered ended up being probably implying quite a lot that I actually had that much stuff. 3 gigabytes for at best of things. At best. Everything else didn't actually matter. So yeah, I'm good. And I don't know. I can admit it's nice to not need that much stuff either way. To some degree, the whole concept of continuously trying to make sure that there is no overabundance of attachment or similar. Not so when it isn't actually necessary to have so much stuff that we allow next to us and to have so many things that we make look like they are actually necessary ends up being not a beneficial thing, but instead a harmful way of behaving towards reality. To give ourselves a sense of necessity for stuff that don't actually contribute to ourselves in any way is not just, I guess the conclusion is yeah, bad, but not just bad, also quite disappointingly useless. It's one of those many other things that we can allow ourselves to lie about, and we can make ourselves believe, influence us in ways in which they actually don't. So, I don't know, brother. I guess being without so much the needing part of being. Still, it doesn't actually mean that there is a complete detachment from the world. Here we are still. I guess probably the whole concept of being without any other attachment always comes with the stuff like this wouldn't be happening. Probably. I don't actually know. I think it wouldn't be all that crazy, but based on what I have come to understand, I think that unavoidably the final conclusion of being without any other attachment that leads to stuff like suicide, I have to assume. Or in the end, if you don't need literally anything, why would you even need your own life? Even more, the whole way in which people like Buddhists consider existence and such about the no being, the note. What's the final conclusion? It's like the no subject, no objects, and no reality, or something like that. The final level of understanding out the whole world in which nothing actually has that much importance. It's unavoidably. It is a way to aberrant reading of the whole Buddhist discourse, but you can, in a way, allow it to look like. Certainly, it's far better to not even be in the end, because being and no being in the end are the same. So, I don't know. I'm trying to say it's not about also being totally detached from existence. I think unavoidably it might even lead to stuff like literally killing yourself. So I'm not actually proposing that full detachment from life is good. Not today at least, I guess. But yeah. Also, I don't know. I guess it's like a meta commentary on our but I think I have been speaking so little lately that I have kind of fucking and literally fucked my throat in a way in which I I haven't been expecting. I don't know. I guess the reality is, yeah, I haven't hearing a lot of people talk about that and listening others who also to some degree go through the same experience, and it's quite crazy to see all of that happen. You will actually expect that we are far more capable of speaking, yeah, with our natural voice, and I don't know, it's quite a difficult topic for most people, or not a topic of conversation, an action to do. To be capable of just using your natural voice is quite a difficult thing to observe in others. It's a conduct that ends up being not so recurrent on anyone. People are not so prone to just speaking. We are not so prone to just being without almost any other worry. But it doesn't matter. It it probably never matters to some degree, I guess. Not because it truly doesn't matter, it's more along the lines of it feels better for us to just assume that it doesn't matter. There are other things to still occupy ourselves with. There are other topics to have our mind focused on. There are some other aspects of life to be worried about, and maybe this one isn't one of them. Even if there are worrisome things, today we're not here to worry about anything, so who knows? The whole act of escaping one thing just to fall onto the next similar but yet different trap of life and such. And I don't know. I I think it's fine anyways. Also, besides that, I don't know. I guess we're fine. I can finally talk about that to some degree in terms of, yeah, it has been so long since the last time that I actually got to talk like this. Also, misclick. But yeah, it has been so long since the last time that I got to sit like this here. It's nice to see that just talking is not so difficult. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you feel like people make it look like an actually impossible task to commit or something like that, and I don't know. I don't think it is all that hard or all that horrible or all that difficult to try and possess a little bit of honesty and just think out the stuff that goes on. Be focused on whatever is it that occurs in life, and let all the other, I wouldn't say worries, it's more along the lines of all the other thoughts that do not concern us with our particular reality float outside of the realm of consciousness. It's nice to do that actually, and I think I don't know how much I feel. I don't want to look at it, but yeah, I feel like it has been almost 2 weeks since the last time that we were here, so that's nice. That's a wonderful thing to go back to, and I don't know. Probably I have yet to define how things are going to go in relation to the next encounters with the proposition of trying to have far more. Once again, the whole concept of freeform and such implies a lot of in itself. The word itself already explains it. Freeformness, shapelessness, and no actual pattern to focus or anything like that. So here we are. Next time we're going to probably have a far more coordinated, ordered, organized, something like that set of things to discuss. And yeah, anyway, continuing. I remember having said something also. Being honest, we don't even need this, right? At this point in time, we don't even need this one notation. I can finally remove it, no? I can finally get rid of that one, no? It's not all that unreal to say. After all, it doesn't apply anymore, right? Also, can you let me... You're going to let me click what I want to click. I love it so much. Oh yes. You decide to not cooperate. Move this a little bit further. Move this a little bit further. Let me see. Okay. And also move this a little bit further. A little bit further. And a little bit. There we go. Now we get a little bit more space. A little bit more orderly. Ordinance? Something like that, basically. But yeah. Point being, life is so great. I don't know. Next thing is, I don't know, so much. I keep on saying it without actually clarifying, but yeah, so much stuff to look forward to. I haven't tried to think about it, and I think it's quite a surprising concept to have to occupy yourself with the whole idea of having to think about not just being, but also all the other stuff that has to do with us and growing up, going through life, going through all the other things that relate to the aspects of us and getting slowly but surely more older. Not just maturating and such, or yeah, becoming more mature as a person and similar, but also the whole other aspect, the whole other dimension of, despite, let me say it like that, because at this point I think I say it way too much without actually referencing what I try to mean. There is, I think it should be a quite obvious difference, but unavoidably I don't see it being used enough, so I think it is quite different to actually maturate as a person than to just grow up. Every single day you can grow up, but it doesn't mean that every single day you mature more into a more quote unquote developed or a different person. It doesn't, one thing doesn't lead to the other one, or doesn't unavoidably. One isn't the consequence of the other in an unavoidable pattern. You can, the whole concept, for example, of an eternal child isn't so surprising once you understand that, yeah, there is some degree of, I wouldn't say willfulness. Sometimes you can be even forced to maturate, even if you don't want to. You can become a far more mature person than what your others of your similar age need, just because the norm is this other different thing. But yeah, point being, anyways, that yeah, I think the action of slowly going through time and seeing things getting older, not the other aspect of becoming more mature, not so much, but the aspect of getting older still is quite astonishing to actually try to think out. In many ways, I don't know. I haven't actually understood it yet. I hope one day to be capable of possessing a more firm capacity or certainty in terms of getting to discuss stuff as to why we are so sure that time is so short in many ways, and that we need to always live in the immediateness of life and such. Unavoidably, you can gain some insight from the analysis of your surroundings and such. Oh yeah, we live in a culture in which things happen far more rapidly. We live in a culture of things instantaneously, and we are surrounded by things that are always moving even faster. And even if you look around at the philosophical ideas of nowadays, you have stuff like accelerationism, which refers to how we are so prone to make things move even faster and to try to reach even higher stages of development in regards to literally anything for the sake of progress. Okay, you have that explanation. That doesn't fully explain why we are so focused on a personal level with time and how we make it look like it actually is the worst thing to, I don't know, get all the results that we are looking for the same day that we realize that we have this desire. It's, I don't want to make the easy pathway of the analysis, but I guess the analysis that so far I reach is, I think it's far easier to say that we want something, assume that it will be instantaneously granted to us, and then get angry once we don't gain the thing which we want, rather than try at all to have something and make sure that we get to possess the thing which we want, no matter how much time it takes. Disregarding time as a factor of, okay, if I don't get this thing by X amount of time, then it means that it isn't for me, as an easy pathway to non-commitment. That's a far simpler analysis, but that just leads to, oh no, yeah, then that means that everybody is unwilling to do stuff. No, or it's not so easy. But yeah, that's why I was saying I haven't actually understood it fully. One day I haven't. I guess I will be trying to wrap my head around the whole idea of how we relate to time and such. I guess unavoidably so far the craziest way of explaining it, but at the very same time the most honest one, is one of the craziest realizations that we had was that we are not bound to just our own consciousness, but also we are bound to this other dimension, and the moment in which the human gained the capacity to actually point at this thing which we now call time as this dimension that is completely outside of our control. it became a far more difficult thing to actually understand than anything else, because it is something that is utterly impossible to fully grasp in its completeness. It's one of those many ideas which is surrounded by that real with the capital R, that possesses a degree of existence which requires a lot of analysis, not just to understand, but also to be capable of fully getting around and to making sure that it doesn't interfere with anything that has to do with ourselves. So, a far easier solution for everyone is to just make it look like we understand what it is and make it look like all of us are in not in a symphony. Symphony? Is that the word in English? No, yeah. I guess it isn't symphony. If it isn't, if it doesn't appear in the, yeah, what's the word? Sync. That's the word. In sync. In sync. Make it look like all of us are in sync with what time means and what it means to set our boundaries and our goals in the dimension of time instead of the dimension of willfulness or such. Because otherwise, to try to admit that sometimes, if you say that's trying to apply it in a reasonable manner or a more understandable manner, if all of us decide that time isn't as important, because sometimes there are way too many external factors that have literally nothing to do with ourselves, what we need to also have is the capacity to admit that to some degree we are not so capable of truly realizing that indeed it wasn't ever all that important, and to even if it isn't directly, to have to admit that is to have to own a lot of previous errors and a lot of previous attachments to this whole idea of time from past times that end up making us look like complete fools, so to speak. And even more so, because at least personally, I think, in accordance with many other things that are also just like that, once it comes to quote unquote complex ideas, to try and actually admit things in regards to that, and try to actually make things make sense in regards to those concepts that are so utterly hard to truly grasp, requires not just a little bit of patience, not just a lot of honesty, but also a degree of thinking that will require a lot of observation about many other things also. And in itself, it comes a point in the life of every single one of us in which to be forced to do such a thing even more is quite a horrible action, actually. To have to look back at everything and say, wow, I have actually been doing quite a horrible job with this thing. Is not so good, actually. You have to actually admit that, oh wow, I have been so attached. In this case, I'm spending my time to try and targets in itself out time. I have been observing and I have been trying to make sense of what time is in a way in which it will, or it might actually never reach any other conclusion. It might never actually lead me to anything positive. All of that stuff is far more difficult to actually do. Once again, because more so, we seem to be surrounded by people that, quote unquote, also gets it. So it's kinda hard to have to admit that, yeah, we don't understand this thing while everyone else seems to do so. And that at that level, even if it is an easy solution of, oh no, yeah, therefore it means that it is an ego problem. I don't know, or it is not all that crazy. In many ways, all of us live surrounded by those ego situations in which, even if we can't consciously admit that, yeah, it's quite a horrible thing to have to say, you know what, I don't understand at all these things that we are talking about. I don't understand at all these things that we are using our time on. I don't understand why I should even worry myself about this thing. But I am a grown up. Therefore, if I admit that, I might as well lose my quality of a grown up person. What do you mean that I don't understand this thing that everyone else around me does get? Are you actually trying to imply that I am not a grown up? Are you making fun of me? Are you taking me for a fool? Are you assuming that you are better than... No. It's not always all of that. It's not always all of that. It's so sometimes, I guess, even if I guess, you know, whether it sounds bad, but even if stuff like that happens, even if things of that sort occur, we are good. Sometimes it's, I guess, personal perspective, yeah, it's far better to be capable of admitting that we are wrong than to never say anything about that and live in a delusion of sorts in which we might have somehow no issue at all, when in reality life just gets harder by the day, you know, and similar stuff. But I don't know, at this point, the point itself was time. We are not yet there. At some point, I guess I will finally reach that, but so far I can't. So yeah, anyway. I think we should. I can try to navigate this other thought. I can otherwise act like it doesn't even exist and move on with the other idea of, let's play something. Yeah, I have a new PC. Let's fucking indulge every single fucking day, brother. Yeah. No. Let me try to be honest for a second. I think one of the craziest things is, yeah, I had been throughout, I guess, the whole stream to think about that as it's surprising to see how tiring it gets to be here. Just in the act of actually thinking out what is being said. I remember saying that before. A huge difference that happens when you're playing something is you aren't at all paying attention to what the fuck you're saying. So you're not spending as much energy. You don't have to make sense in many ways. What makes sense is the gameplay, so it makes it a far easier task. But I think that actually, if I just do this, I don't need to. I don't need to go quote unquote for so long. And it's not even a necessity. It's more along the lines, I don't have the capacity to go for so long. As always, I also bring up the idea of, yeah, with proper breaks and what you know, you can also probably manage to half an hour, at best 2 hours more on, but even then, it's unavoidably it does feel like it is, oh no, yeah, that's so superior, but I am not trying to aim it literally at anyone. It's just an observation of, I understand how people can stream for 7 hours. I could also probably do it. I wouldn't try to do that. I don't think it's all that good actually. But yeah, I understand it. It's somehow sometimes we make it look like things are far more difficult until you actually understand how stuff works. It's, I don't know, we are surrounded by events and things in this current world that all seem so mysterious, but we have forgotten also that we are ourselves capable of explaining, seeing, and making sense of the nature of things far more than ever before, because it actually is a great time to at the very least try to see stuff for what it might be, rather than to just lay with the assumption of what it could be and nothing else. And I don't know, sometimes I guess it's just about trying to care, trying to see things, trying to occupy yourselves with stuff and such. And yeah, I believe this is one of those many occasions. It's nice, and probably it's going to keep being that way. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I guess more so. Let me try to explain myself, because it seems like it comes from nowhere. I don't know. It has to do probably, okay. A rapid analysis, it probably has to do with something along the lines of I don't fucking like to talk about myself. I never did. I never actually enjoyed that part of any conversation at all. One of the many discoveries of having to be surrounded by so many people is the moment in which you have to actually communicate so much about yourself. Makes it look like you're only centered in your own person. And to some degree, it is quite an annoying thing when you are surrounded by others who do the same thing about themselves, even if it sounds like something that you care about. At some point, you actually stop considering if what they are saying is something honest or if they are just saying something for the sake of literally fucking feeling that air. But in this case, honest analysis is also, I don't know. I also think it is quite a reality that indeed it's not so hard to admit that just doing this doesn't just lead to me having shorter streams. That's the thing that I already sort of announced, but the whole other aspect of I tire myself out far more, and probably take into consideration how I feel. I guess I could even, personally speaking, fall asleep far more rapidly. I don't think it would be all that crazy to say so. And I don't know. Therefore, is that my encouragement? Yeah. If you can so easily sleep and go live on stream just chatting for a bit. No. No. I guess to some degree, yeah. It actually is, but it's more along the lines of, I don't know. I guess you have to actually think out what is in your mind instead of acknowledging that there might be something, but never using your time on doing so, on actually looking at what is there, end up leading to a sensation which can be utilized and harmonized for many other results in the existence itself of ours. So I don't know, that's the point. Probably that means that leads to the conclusion that I sort of already said. Yeah, therefore today, after all of this, you close your eyes, I close my eyes, and I sleep like a fucking baby. But anyway, I don't know, such is life, I guess. Tomorrow, I don't have that much more to add. Or even if I had, I don't want to add that much more. Yeah, I guess I am also trying to get a proper sleeping schedule. I think I have been doing so out of habit lately. The whole staying up until incredibly fucking late. But I don't know. I also like to wake up at a decent hour. But tomorrow we are going to be reading Smuhafarata. I have been missing that book. I want to read that book, so tomorrow I have Harata. So yeah, that's the future ahead of us. But for now we are done, I guess. Not much more to add. Thank you. And after tomorrow, I don't know. I should actually try to get a bar going, but I also I have already spammed so much that whole idea. I don't want to keep on repeating that. at some point it stops being important and it just feels like a constant reminder of, oh no, yeah, we are not doing anything else because of this personal reason. But it's sort of the reality, yeah. We have exams next week, so I am trying to also fucking study for that. But anyway, we're going to see how things go. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe I think a far more realistic goal would be like stream or the bar for the next Saturday, not this Saturday, something like that. I think so. That will be far better. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Now for real, well done. No. No. I remember something. I had this whole idea. What's the name of the word in English? I forgot. Doorstep? Is it doorstep? Doorstep effect? Yeah, the doorstep effect. You can doorway effect or location updating effect. The thing in which the instant in which you think about leaving, that has been quite an amazing discovery for me. The moment in which you think about leaving itself, you can also trigger that, but most normally it happens when you are living your normal life and you, let's say like this, we're having a conversation here, but not in this format. We are having a face-to-face conversation, and I say, okay, that's it for today. You get up from your chair, you start to leave, and the moment in which you cross the doorway, you say, but one final thing. I just remember this other thing. That effect is incredibly amazing. It's one of the most interesting things. Not one saying it is incredibly well recorded and it happens way too much, but yeah, that's also one of the main reasons as to why I keep on saying nothing else to add. No, actually, there is something else to add, but yeah, I don't know. It's meaningless anyway. It probably is far more annoying than anything else, actually. I think, not that I think, I have already experienced that with other people. It is incredibly crazy to see how much you can't actually abandon a situation no matter how much you say, no, yeah, there is nothing else to, no, there is something else to add, but no, now for real. That's the only thing that I actually wanted to particularly add to it. So yeah, well done. I don't know, what if what if the next hour is me having a complete schizophrenic attack? Sorry. No, goodbye. Nothing else to add. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, existence. Yeah, ponder, be happy, smile, do things, live. Thank you for everything. It doesn't matter. Do something and be thankful that we got to live another day, because there is nothing more wonderful than to be here. Here, meaning existing. So yeah, anyway, good night. Thank you. And yeah, see you next time. And even if we don't get to see ourselves, thank you for the fucking attention. That's all that matters. As always, it doesn't matter what others say. What matters is what you get to make out of what others actually tried to mean. So